Sairam students, hope you all are doing well. Let's begin with the second session of history, chapter number 2, that is from trade to territory. In that, we have seen the company establishes power. Before going to the main topic, let's see the content and let's summarize what we have done in our first presentation. Right? In our first presentation, we saw the content and then the main topic, that is East India Company comes east. I told you the chapter is divided basically in main three topics, right? In that, we have started with East India Company comes east. In that, we saw the first was the East India Company comes east. In that, we have seen that the Queen Elizabeth II, she gave the Royal Charter. Royal Charter was giving the sole monopoly to the East India Company for trading, okay? But then to that Royal Charter, it could not prevent other European powers from entering. European powers means it means Portuguese, French, and Dutch, right? Then too they entered in the trade with India. And the problem was that all the companies were interested in buying the same things, right? The same thing, that is cotton, silk, uh, cloves, pepper, cardamom, cinnamon. Everybody wanted the same commodities from our country, India. What they were doing, they were purchasing it at the lower prices and they were selling to their countries at the higher prices to earn maximum profit. Right? Then we saw how East India Company begins trade in Bengal. In that, we have learned that the first English factory is set up on the banks of the river Hooghly, right, in the year 1651. Then we saw about the Farman, that who issued that Farman? Aurangzeb, right? But it was misused by the company officials. Then the next topic we have learned here is how trade led to battles. In that we have seen about the conflicts, that was the conflict were intensifying among the Nawabs as well as that the company officials, and finally that led to the confrontations for the Battle of Plassey. Then we have learnt about the Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar. In the Battle of Plassey, we learnt about that Nawabs. The first was the Murshid Quli Khan, then Ali Vardi Khan, then Sirajudullah, right? When after the death of Ali Vardi Khan, Sirajudullah became the Nawab of Bengal. And what the officials, company officials want, they want the puppet ruler. I explained you the meaning of puppet ruler also, right? Then we saw how the Battle of Plassey was lost by the Nawab of Bengal, Sirajudullah, because of the betrayal of Mir Zafar, correct? Then the next we saw that the that is Mir Qasim, that is son-in-law of Mir Zafar, he was there at the time of Battle of Buxar. Correct? He was defeated in the battle. Then again Mir Zafar was reinstalled as the Nawab of Bengal. This is what we have learnt in our first session. Now, the last topic, that is company official become nabobs. We have to complete that first and then we will be switching to the next important topic, that is company rule expands. Now let's begin with the topic that company officials become nabobs. Now, what does it mean? What do you mean by that nabobs? We'll see the meaning of that in this. Okay, it was like the company acquired more power and authority, right? But it also meant that each company servant began to have vision of living like nawabs. Okay, after the Battle of Plassey, the actual Nawabs of Bengal was forced to give land and vast sums of money as personal gifts to company officials. So, even Robert Clive himself amassed a fortune in India. He had come to Madras, that is Chennai, presently call it as Chennai, from England in 1743 at the age of 18. When in 1767 he left India, his Indian fortune was worth, see the amount, that is 4,01,102 pounds. You can imagine that amount of in that 18th century, in 17th century. Interestingly, when he was appointed as the governor of Bengal in 1764, he was asked to remove corruption in company administration, but he was himself cross examined in 1772. See, even he has made so much of wealth by corruption, right? And when he became the governor of Bengal, he was asked to remove the corruption. Now he don't have any option. He himself was cross-examined in 1772 by the British Parliament, which was suspicious of his vast wealth. Even they were doubting how he has got such a amount in that way. Although he was acquitted, he committed suicide in 1774. But however, not all the company officials succeeded in making money like Clive as he did in our country, India. Many died at early death in India due to diseases and the war, and it would not be right to regard all of them as corrupt and dishonest. See, all the officers were not same. Few were maybe honest also, right? But the main purpose of everyone was to come and more money in our country, India. So many of them came from humble backgrounds, and their uppermost desire was to earn enough in India and return to Britain and lead a comfortable life. So, those who managed to return with their wealth, led fleshy lives, and flaunted their riches, they were called as nabobs. Actually, nabobs is what? It's an anglicized version of the Indian word nawab. See, in India we call it as nawab. Similarly, in Britain they call it as nabobs. They were often seen as upstarts and social climbers in British society and were ridiculed or made fun of in plays and cartoons. Now, the next topic we are going to begin here is company rule expands. The main important topic here now, how the expansion of company rule took place. Under this, we are going to go through the subtopic subsidiary alliance. See, instead of having that military confrontation, East India Company, they adopted the new strategies, new policies to have the capture our country, to have the rule on our country, India. That we are going to learn in this subsidiary alliance. Then we will see about the Tipu Sultan, the Tiger of Mysore. Then we'll be learning about the war with the Marathas. Then we'll be seeing the policies, that is the claim to paramountcy and the doctrine of lapse. Now let's learn about the expansion of company rule. See, if we analyze the process of annexation of Indian states by the East India Company from 1757 to 1857, that means a period of 100 years, certain key aspects emerge in that. The company rarely launched a direct military attack on an unknown territory. See, company was not using the military powers to rule our country, to attack our country. Instead, it used a variety of political, economic, and diplomatic methods to extend its influence before annexing an Indian kingdom. They were using some policies that by using that policies they were trying to annex our country, our kingdom. After the Battle of Buxar in 1764, the company appointed residents in Indian states. Now, what is residence here? Residence means actually it is like see the people have he was really the king of the country, right? They were not interfering in that. The people, those who were appointed from the company officials, they were there in that government, but they were not reacting, they were not interfering. But when something goes wrong, they were reporting to their company officials. Then immediately the action was taken against that. So company appointed residents in Indian states. Now here, what happened then? Through the residents, the company officials began interfering in the internal affairs of the Indian states, right? So they tried to decide who was to be the successor to the throne and who was to be appointed in the administrative post. So now to understand that, they followed the policy of subsidiary alliance. Now let's see what is that. The company forced the states into a subsidiary alliance. Now, according to the terms of this alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They were to be protected by the company, but had to pay for the subsidiary forces. It means they cannot have Indian states, they cannot have their own army. They have to take the army from Britishers, that is from East India Company, right? and in against that, definitely they will be expecting something from the Indians to pay. So that was, they had to pay for the subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of their protection. But if the Indian rulers fail to make the payment, that is, if the Indian rulers are not able to pay the subsidiary forces, right, for that in that given as per the subsidiary alliance, then the part of their territory was taken away as penalty. For example, when Richard Wellesley, see children here this, in this slide, one image has been given to you showing subsidiary alliance system. In that, Richard Wellesley, he was the Governor General the year 1798 to 1805. Then it has been shown in that figure there, the Nawab of Awadh. The Nawab of Awadh at that time was Sujauddullah, was forced to give over half of his territory to the company in 1801. Why he was forced? As per the policy of the subsidiary alliance, as he failed to pay for the subsidiary forces, so he has to, his half of the territory was taken away by Richard Wellesley. Even Hyderabad was also forced to get territories on the similar grounds. So this was the subsidiary alliance policy that was followed by the Britishers, that is East India Company. Now here the image has been given, that is there in your textbook also, Nawab Sujauddullah of Awadh with his sons and the British resident painted by Tilly Kettle. Oil is given, that is the oil painting that has been done in the year 1772. The treaties that followed the Battle of Buxar forced Nawab Sujauddullah to give up much of his authority. Here, however, he poses in regal splendor, towering over the resident. Now, the next topic here is the Tipu Sultan, the Tiger of Mysore. The company resorted to direct military confrontation when it saw a threat. See, it is not always like the company was not having that military confrontation with Indian state, but whenever it was required, whenever it saw a threat to its political or economic interest, this can be illustrated with the case of the southern Indian state of Mysore. Now, they wanted to capture the southern Indian states of Mysore. The Mysore had grown in strength under the leadership of powerful rulers, like here the images have been given you of Hyder Ali as well as his famous son Tipu Sultan. Hyder Ali was ruled from 1761 to 1782, whereas Tipu Sultan ruled from 1782 to 1799. In 1785, Mysore controlled the profitable trade of the Malabar coast, where the company purchased pepper and cardamom. But in 1785, what Tipu Sultan did? He stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom. Through the which port? That is the Malabar coast, okay? And disallowed local merchants from trading with the company. He also established a close relationship with the French in India. The rulers of Mysore, they were having the good relations with the France, that is the French. So they maintained that close relationship with them. And whereas the East India Company and French, they were not in the good terms to each other. And modernized his army with their help. With the help of the French, even Tipu modernized his army also. Now children, here you can see the image that is given in this slide. This is given in your textbook. It shows you that Cornwall is reaching the sons of Tipu Sultan as hostages. Hostages means he has been captured. This painting has been done by Daniel Ohm in 1793. Now the company forces were defeated by Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan in several battles that we are going to learn in the next slide. But in 1792, attacked by the combined forces of the, see here the combined forces, Marathas, the Nizam of Hyderabad and the company. All these three forces together forced Tipu to sign a treaty with the British by which two of his sons were taken away as hostages. Now, after the Tipu has taken so many, in 1785 we saw the Tipu stopped all these things. Okay, then the British were furious. They saw Hyder and Tipu, they were very ambitious, arrogant and dangerous. This is what the company was feeling. These two rulers, they are very dangerous for them, who had to be controlled and crushed. So, what happened then? Four wars were fought with Mysore. Yeah, the four wars that has been given. First was in the year 1767. That wars were called as Anglo-Mysore Wars. Anglo word is connected to British. Wherever Anglo word comes, it means the British as well as the other state of a country. That is the war between the British and the Mysore. Okay. So first Anglo-Mysore War was in the year 1767 and to 69. Then the second one was in 1780 to 84. Then the third Anglo-Mysore War was in 1790 to 92, and the fourth one was in the year 1799. Now, what happened in these wars? Let's see that. See, Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital Seringapatnam. It was only in the last war, that is in 1799. The Anglo-Mysore War was a series of wars fought during the last 3 decades of the 18th century between the Kingdom of Mysore on the one hand and the British, that is East India Company, and the Nizam of Hyderabad on the other. Hyder Ali and his successor, that is Tipu Sultan, fought a war on 4 fronts with the British attacking from the west, south, and east, while the Nizam's forces attacked from the north. The fourth war resulted in the overthrow of the house of Hyder Ali and Tipu, who was killed in the fourth war, that is in the year 1799, and the dismantlement of Mysore to the benefit of the East India Company, which won and took control of much of India. So, this is what Tipu Sultan only in the last battle, that is the Battle of Seringapatnam, and Seringapatnam is the capital city of Mysore. The company ultimately win a victory. Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital, and Mysore was placed under the former ruling dynasty of the Vodiyas. Now, Vodiyas were the dynasty that was controlling the Mysore before the Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali. And the subsidiary alliance, the policy that you have learnt in the previous slides, was imposed on the state. Now, here you can see the Tipu's toy figure is given here. See, this is a picture of a big mechanical toy that Tipu possessed. You can see a tiger is there mauling a European soldier. When its handle was turned, the toy tiger roared and the soldier shrieked. This toy tiger is now kept in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London today. The British took it away when Tipu Sultan died defending his capital Seringapatnam on 4th May 1799. So this was like Mysore was placed under the former ruling dynasty of the Vodiyas. Now how did Tipu got this title as the Tiger of Mysore? He was the legend. Kings are often surrounded by the legend and their powers glorified through folklore. Here is a legend about Tipu Sultan, who became the ruler of Mysore in 1782. It is said that once he went hunting in the forest with a French friend. There, he came face to face with a tiger. His gun did not work and his dagger fell to the ground. He battled with the tiger unarmed until he managed to reach down and pick up the dagger. Finally, he was able to kill the tiger in the battle. After this, he came to be known as the Tiger of Mysore, and he had the image of the tiger on his flag. This is what we have learnt about the Tiger of Mysore, that is the Tipu Sultan. Now the next starts war with the Marathas. From the late 18th century, the company also sought to curb and eventually destroy Maratha power. See, Marathas helped them at the time of having the fight with Mysore, that is the Tipu Sultan, right? Now they want to capture the Maratha power also. Even Marathas were very powerful, right? With their defeat in the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, the Maratha dream of ruling from Delhi was shattered. They were divided into many states under different chiefs. See, divided into states and different chiefs, that means sardars. They started having their own small kingdoms under that now, belonging to dynasties such as different dynasties were there, such as Scindia, Holkar, Gaikwad, and Bhosles. Scindias were belonging to Gwalior, Holkars were belonging to Indore, Gaikwads were from Baroda, and Bhosles were from Satara. So these chiefs were held together in a confederacy. Confederacy means that is alliance under a Peshwa, that is the principal minister, who became its effective military and administrative head based in Pune. Now, Peshwa was the main principal minister to handle all these dynasties of Marathas. Now, here the images have been given to you of the two famous Maratha soldiers, that is Nana Fadnis and Maharji Scindia. Now, the Marathas were subdued in a series of wars. Even Marathas couldn't be captured in one war. There was a series of wars. See, in Mysore we learned Anglo-Mysore wars. Now, with Marathas you will learn Anglo-Maratha wars. In the first war that ended in 1782, with the Treaty of Salwai. The second Anglo-Maratha War that started in 1803 till 1805 was fought on different fronts, resulting in the British gaining Orissa and the territories north of the Yamuna River, including Agra and Delhi. Then the third Anglo-Maratha War of 1817 and 1819 crushed Maratha power. The Peshwa was removed and sent away to Bitur near Kanpur with a pension. With a pension means here that Peshwa was removed. He was not killed in that. Okay, he was removed and sent away to Bitur near Kanpur with some amount of pension that he is going to get every time from the company. Now the company now had complete control over the territories south of the Vindhyas. Now, the next policy that the Britishers, that the company adopted, was the claim to paramountcy. Now, let's understand what is that the claim to paramountcy. It is clear from the above that the early 18th century, the company pursued an aggressive policy of territorial expansion. Now, under Lord Hastings, the image of Lord Hastings has been given to you. He was the Governor General from 1813 to 1823. A new policy of paramountcy was initiated under his guidance. Paramountcy means what now? Now, the company claimed that its authority was paramount. Paramount means supreme. Hence, its power was greater than that of Indian states. Now, in order to protect its interest, it was justified in annexing or threatening to annex any Indian kingdom. This view continued to guide later the British policies as well. This process, however, did not go unchallenged. For example, when the British tried to annex the small state of Kittur, that is in Karnataka today, Rani Channamma, here the image has been given you of Rani Channamma, took to arms and led an anti-British resistance movement. She was arrested in 1824 and died in prison in 1829. But then after that, Rayana, a poor Chowkidar of Sangoli in Kittur, carried on the resistance. With popular support, he destroyed many British camps and records. He was caught and hanged by the British in 1830. Then, in the late 1830s, the East India Company became worried about Russia. It imagined that Russia might expand across Asia and enter India from the northwest. So, driven by this fear, the British now wanted to secure their control over the northwest. So, their focus went to the northwest now. They fought a prolonged war with Afghanistan between 1838 and 1842 and established indirect company rule there. Even Sindh was taken over in 1843. Now, next in line was Punjab, but the presence of Maharaja Ranjit Singh held back the company because Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a very powerful ruler of Punjab. So they couldn't. But after his death in 1839, two prolonged wars were fought with the Sikh kingdom. That is the first Anglo-Sikh War, that was in the year 1845 in 46. Then the second Anglo-Sikh War, that was in the year 1848-49. So this two Anglo-Sikh wars took place. Then the two prolonged wars were fought with the Sikh kingdom. These were the above given Sikh wars. Ultimately, in 1849, Punjab was annexed. So children, here we have completed today about, let's have the quick recap. We learnt about the company officials become Nabobs, and then we saw the policy, that is a subsidiary alliance. Then we saw about the Tipu Sultan, the tiger of Mysore, how he got the title, and how that 4 Anglo-Mysore wars were fought, right? Then we saw the war with the Marathas. In that you learnt about the Anglo-Maratha wars with the Marathas, right? Then the policy adopted by the Britishers, that is the claim to paramountcy. Then the next further topics we are going to see in the next session. Now here is an activity for you. See, in this session you have learnt about the Anglo-Mysore wars and the Anglo-Maratha wars, right? So you have to write about that Anglo-Mysore wars, 4 Anglo-Mysore wars and 3 Anglo-Maratha wars, right? Now children, after that the last topic, that is setting up the new administration, and even one more policy, that is the doctrine of lapse, that we'll be learning in the next session. Till then, take care.